Hey, are you one of those that inherited a private insurance policy that your parents bought for you when you were young? Do you actually know what you're taking over? Welcome back to the Money Talks podcast. I'm Andrea Heng. Now, today we are unpacking what it really means to inherit a private insurance policy that your parents started for you. I mean, they had the foresight to think about your future, but what happens when you inherit it? What can you do with it now that you've taken over? Joining me is Wai Kit, Executive Director of Life Insurance Association Singapore. Welcome to the Red Chair.
Thank you. Hi, Andrea. It's nice to be here.
Okay, Wai Kit, can I ask if you have had to inherit an insurance policy that your parents bought for you? Because I have, and I have stories.
I actually did. I actually inherited one from my parent quite some time ago.
Okay.
Right. Again, yes, that was when I was way younger. It was actually a savings plan
Okay.
that I had actually inherited. So I kind of just continued to upkeep it because I thought, well, it's something that they have bought for me.
Okay.
It has accumulated in value.
Okay.
So yes, I actually got one policy that's there.
Okay, so I inherited, I think, 2 or 3 policies from my parents when I started working. And I had no idea what they were. But I decided for sentimental reasons to keep on paying for those policies. But at the same time, I decided to buy my own because, you want to have a sense of independence, autonomy, stuff like that, right? Because you're a working adult now. Did you do the same?
I did the same.
Okay.
Right?
And is there a risk to doing that?
I think the risk of doing that is you actually do not know what you're really protected for and what holistically the plans that you have. So in such circumstances, I think that we always say that even if there is a sentimental value to it, of course there is because it's a gift from the parents,
Yeah.
make sure to include that as what you have in your financial planning.
Yeah.
So share that with the advisor that look beyond my own needs, my affordability. These are actually things I have inherited. Get them involved in that decision whether to keep it or perhaps to make changes to it.
Okay, so you mentioned that you inherited some kind of a savings plan policy from your parents. I think one of mine was like that as well, or the other one was a term plan, etc. Are these typically the kinds of policies that parents tend to get for their children?
I guess parents generally, I think if we really look at it very broadly, there'll be 2 groups of policies that parents typically tends to get.
Okay.
One is a little bit more with a savings element to it.
Okay.
Right, whether it's intended to be savings for life, whether it's intended to be savings for a targeted goal, like for the child's education, etc. So a pretty much savings-oriented type of policies.
Okay.
Another type of policies would be more the protection-based.
Right.
To protect against an accident, to protect against hospitalization, or even critical illness. Right. So in my instance, in that case, I inherited a savings type of policy,
Yeah.
which actually I was pretty comfortable when I review it because, hey, I think a lot of times when you talk about savings type policy, right, life insurance is always about medium to long-term planning in general.
Yeah.
So actually the value of such a plan, which has, without me knowing about that, as I grew up, accumulated 10, 20 years,
Oh, wow.
right? And as I kept it on, I think that's where I really reaped the benefits from that particular plan in itself.
Right.
So I thought that was a pretty nice gift that I actually received
Yeah, it's like a
from my
nice
mom.
surprise,
It
right?
is.
Yeah, I think I had one of those as well, and I decided to cash it out because I felt, okay, I've reaped the benefits. It's time for me to use that money and invest it in something else. Is that also something that you would advise people to do?
I guess, again, I think that is where it depends on the circumstances. If you do feel that the continued premium commitment of such policies,
Yeah.
right, you felt that you could better do something else with it because of how your financial circumstances are or your financial options are, that is indeed one possible choice.
Okay.
Right. But like I said, because a lot of savings plans tends to be, actually the value comes out for the medium to longer term. It actually accelerates faster when it hits us past a certain stage.
Yeah.
So that's where you got to kind of balance off, right? Is that something that you still want to do? or you think that, well, perhaps my premiums needs or the savings that I could get could be better plowed into something else.
Okay, fair enough. So what actually happens when you inherit, uh, an insurance policy from your parent? Is there some kind of formal procedure that we have to go through? What typically happens?
I think when we says in a way inherit, to me in my mind, there's probably two broad categories of
Okay.
it, right? That's one form of it, which is actually you kind of like inherit everything, i.e., you take control,
Okay.
you have ownership, you are able to make decisions whether to keep the plan or not. There's another way which is probably more in terms of just the form,
Okay.
whereby sometimes some people actually just take over the paying part of it without changing anything. It's just that the payer has shifted from the parents to the child because the child has started to gain financial independence, has started on their journey and kind of want to ease off the financial pressure
Yeah.
off the parents' back, given that they have probably contributed the past 2 decades or so
Yeah.
to the children's upgoing, right?
Okay.
I think as a process in itself, the takeover or the inherit part is pretty hassle-free.
Okay.
I think that pretty much the parents, assuming wants to pass over the control, can just, I think, put in certain forms, etc., and it gets done. I think what's important is what's next do you do after you inherit it.
Okay, I'll get to that in just a moment, but I wanted to bring up this story about how some people haven't been able to contact their insurance agent when they want this process done. So an example would be, the insurance agent has either moved on to another company, moved on to another role altogether, is not even insurance in anymore. Basically not servicing the policy or the client anymore. So what happens in those instances?
I think that the policies are all actually underwritten by the insurance company in
Right.
itself. So in such circumstances, right, feel free to just directly reach out to the insurance companies. They'll be able to provide various options. More often than not, I think typically when a agent has moved on, company typically will assign someone else, either perhaps within the group in itself or someone within the organization that be able to service you. But nonetheless, not to worry if you kind of, I might have not be sure where I have misplaced that name card,
Yeah.
that particular contact person, call up the company, they'll be able to direct.
Okay. Are there any legal hurdles that a child might have to overcome in inheriting the policy?
I think generally not. I mean, as long as you are of a age whereby you are able to legal age and all, I think that's really the general criteria.
Okay.
I mean, of course, there will always be some exceptions, but I think that
Sure.
by and large, I think generally if you're of legal age to enter into a contract, etc., that's pretty fine.
Okay,
So
that's
it's quite
good.
nice.
So when someone takes over a private insurance policy, so in this instance, child inheriting from a parent, but it can also be anything. Right? It can be wife inheriting from a husband. It can be any pairing, so to speak, right? What are the main options that they must consider?
So I think that firstly, I think that a couple of things that they should take note of whenever they inherit. One, really get an understanding of what the plan covers, right? So what's the coverage area, what it does not cover as well. So assuming for a protection plan,
Yep.
not only what it does cover, what it does not cover.
Because it gives you a clearer picture, right?
Correct, right? So at the same time, also look at your own needs, right?
Okay.
Because what parents sometimes think the kid needs, the kid when they hit of a certain age, they might have different expectations, right? So that's where your own needs, so assuming that I'm the one that inherited, what are my needs and how does this plan fit into my needs at that time? Then consider things like affordability. If it's assumed that you need to continue the financial commitments to continue to pay for the premiums, then you need to assess that against your own commitments, your own financial circumstances, and whether you can sustain it
Right.
at the same time. If they are thinking about, perhaps I want to make changes, again, consider what the alternative is and whether, especially when I talk about protection plan, has your own health circumstances changed? Because if one's health circumstances has changed along the way, maybe develop, unfortunately, I may have developed a new illness, etc. That might make my next insurance policy purchase might not be able to provide as extensive a coverage as what I might have. So again, that's where my options will therefore need to be, in a way, reprioritized, reshuffled. So these are considerations that are there. And I think importantly, not everyone is an expert in such.
Yeah.
Not everyone will be willing to, even for myself back then, might not kind of like find the time to do it or have the discipline to do it.
Yeah, I mean, the fine print on those insurance policy papers was something that we talked about on this podcast as well. It's not easy to set aside time to go and read all through that, right? But it is important.
It is important, right? And therefore do set aside time. And if not, do consult really a financial advisor rep. I think they are there to provide the service, to explain. And even if there are areas which perhaps needed more clarification, they will be there to be able to help to facilitate. And of course, the insurance company is there as well.
Yeah, that's
if
true.
needed.
I imagine also another caveat to consider is if it's a term or savings plan, if you have to pay any penalties for
Exactly.
wanting to exit that particular policy,
Yes.
or if we decide to cash out before the term is due, that's also something we have to
Correct.
consider, right?
Correct. So in terms of if you decide to, let's say, drop it for savings plans, right? I think you exactly hit the nail, whereby look at what you are getting back in value
Yeah.
compared to what has been paid before.
That's right.
Right? Understand, perhaps how long more before it reaches, let's say, a reasonable level that you deem is quote unquote what I'd be happy with in that sense. And like I say, I think for savings, I think policies in particular, because life insurance is about medium to long term.
Yeah.
Right? The hard work is actually being done for the past 10, 20 years to just consistently contribute towards it.
Yeah.
Now might be actually a nice period to kind of continue rolling. So again, are you sure that you want to do that decision to surrender? You could, and there are people who do it,
Yep.
right? Because, their needs might be different. That may not be what I want, and that's fine. Right? But at least go through a proper considered process.
Yeah, I think that's really the key piece of advice there. What are some of the most common mistakes you've seen people make with inherited private policies?
It's probably 2 or 3 of them. I think you actually touched on one of it earlier, which is sentimental value actually.
Yes.
Because of sentimental value, you kind of just leave it there.
Yeah, because insurance plans, and I've learned through this job, through hosting this podcast, that you need to review your insurance policies ever so often, right? Because these policies, their terms change, their coverage changes. So if you are hanging on to a policy that's 25 years old, you may be missing out on certain things.
And I think you hit on the other common mistake as well, right? So beyond sentimental value, there are people who rush into a decision and decide that, let me just cancel it without going through a due consideration.
Because it's not mine.
It's not mine. I
Yes.
wasn't involved in that process.
Exactly.
Someone else passed it on to me.
Yeah.
Let me just cash it out.
I
right?
wouldn't have bought this
And-
if it were up to me.
Correct.
Yeah.
So make a hasty decision. That's the second, I think, possible mistake that people make. The third possible mistake that some people do make is assuming that they are fully covered and that's enough.
Oh.
Right? Because, take for example, right? Perhaps the person inherited, let's say, a hospitalization plan.
Okay.
Right? And perhaps with our parents, and taking my mom for example, she's very comfortable with just going to a government hospital. She doesn't mind being in a lower class ward because she's just very frugal by
Yeah.
nature.
Right.
Right? And she might have bought the same coverage for me, thinking that, that's fine. And it is. Right? But perhaps as I grew up and I decided, no, I wanted a little bit more, I expect a little bit more if I need to go to a hospital
Right.
and all. Then there exists a gap in itself. Right? And of course, I think that when parents purchase, it's also based on their purchasing power.
That's
back then,
true. Yes.
Right. So, and we all know as income level rises over the years, I think that there exists whether it's a mortality gap, there exists whether it's a critical illness protection gap. Such gaps exist. And we need a coverage that's perhaps X times of our income, etc. And we thought, hang on, I do have a policy, it's enough. You can't assume that you're fully covered, it is enough, when actually it isn't.
Right.
Right.
I think because it offers that peace of mind instantly, right? And we're all about instant gratification nowadays. I think that maybe, and we live in such a stressful time, also stressful environment. I think the psychology is, oh, it seems like that's settled for me. I guess I don't have to think about it. But it's actually could be doing you more harm than good by not thinking about it carefully. So, when you inherit a policy that was meant for you as a child, is it usually enough for your adult needs?
Sure. So I think to think about that, I think when the parents purchase the plan, I think one very key consideration is, I think at the point when they purchase, they're probably thinking, I would venture a guess, very often, maybe the next 20 years
Yeah.
or so.
Standard.
Right,
Yeah.
which is, I think, for parents, I think that's really pretty much a time frame to think about, and they set certain plans in place to do so.
Yep.
When the kid inherits that, when the kid reaches young adulthood
Yep.
and starts to inherit it, he or she is probably thinking about the next 50 years ahead. So if you really think about it from a planning horizon perspective, it is unlikely to be a direct match in itself,
Yeah.
right?
Not to mention things like inflation.
Exactly. Inflation,
Cost
cost
of
of
living,
living,
yeah.
etc., would have changed.
Correct.
So I think what the parents would have set a good foundation of where things could leap off and move on from there. It is actually very, very important to take stock of what it is, right? And continue on from there. It's like building blocks to me, the way that I look at that.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
So sometimes, I do have perhaps certain policies which perhaps sometimes the parents might decide to set in place, let's say, critical illness plan.
Right.
Right, might have protected for, hypothetically speaking, say 50,000. Back then, 50,000 would have meant a lot 20 years ago.
Yeah, that's right.
Right, but 50,000 today might not be as a multiple of your income sufficient to breach your critical illness protection gap. And which is why in Singapore, from our studies, it does shows that the critical illness protection gap is actually 70%.
Yeah.
It's a big gap.
It is.
And sometimes it could be because people are not planning enough for it. Perhaps it could be due to good reasons as well, right? Because you do need to take into account your own affordability, sustainability for it as
Yeah,
well.
that's true.
Right? But the gap exists, right? So plans do evolve over time. So there could be new design plans, there could be plans that are with different type of coverages,
Yeah.
different kind of inclusions into the whole benefits in itself. So these are things which would need to be taken into account at the review stage.
Okay, I'm glad that you brought that up because I'm suddenly thinking now, if I decide, okay, for sentimental reasons, I'll stick with the same insurer, are there ways to sort of upgrade the current plan to a better quality, better coverage? Can I do that with as little penalty or fees as possible? Is there such a route that I can take as a child?
More often than not, right? It is like, say, I think building blocks whereby you continue with your old plan,
Right.
or continue what the plan that you have
So you build
inherited,
on
and then
top
you
of that.
build on top of it.
I see.
More often than not,
Okay.
right? There are, however, plans that because of its benefit design, it actually allows you to sometimes increase your coverage, change your coverage at certain key milestones in life.
Right.
So there are plans as such as well. So a lot therefore depends on when the plan was first bought, what are the benefits and features in it.
Yep.
Right, so that, goes back again to understanding what you actually have.
Exactly.
You might miss out some of all this. Hey, I didn't know that I could actually do that.
Yeah.
Right, then you kind of miss the boat in itself. Then
Then you're kind of stuck with that, right?
then you still get to enjoy its benefits, but you might not be maximizing what you could have gotten.
Okay. So is that a point of advice for parents then? When I shop around for a private policy for my child, I should be looking for one that has this flexibility, that has these milestone checks and reviews that allows me or my child later on in life to change the coverage, change certain benefits. Is that something that you would advise parents to do?
I guess parents could look at such. I think that fundamentally, I think for parents, the way that I look at that, simplistically, I will always think that One, think of it as it is really, it's a lifelong cover.
Yeah.
Right, especially for some of it, it's a lifelong cover, some of it might be shorter term, right? So think about life insurance as really something for the medium to longer term. If you feel that therefore you value the flexibilities, look around whether there are plans that give such. Perhaps there is, perhaps there isn't.
Okay.
Depends on that point in time, right? Then I think recognize sometimes the value of insuring when young, when things are all good, etc., for health and all. There is a value of insuring when young and itself. And so that's something to consider. And sometimes you can actually lock in lower premiums for some types of policy because you are taking a long-term view to it.
Right.
Right. Financial sustainability in itself, of course, never ever forget that. Don't overstretch.
Yeah.
It's not about buying the maximum sometimes. It's about buying what you can sustainably continue on with it.
Yeah.
And last but not least, I think go through that education process, right? Even
Yes.
when you're handing on, don't just here you go. That's
Yeah.
it. Right? Encourage the conversation in itself, which
agree.
nicely goes into LIFE, life insurance.
Yeah. As a final takeaway for our listeners and audience watching right now, what if I'm someone who's just started working and I'm about to inherit a private insurance policy that my mom or dad bought for me when I was younger? What's the first thing I should do?
Understand what it covers and the financial commitment that I would need to continue on with it. Right, because that's the very immediate thing. What did I get? Right?
Yeah.
Did I get like really a fantastic policy with a lots of value in it?
Yeah.
And could I be able to actually sustain it? Because that would be the first thing. My first paycheck. Where am I splitting?
Yeah.
Right, my first paycheck into.
Because it goes into your budget, doesn't it?
Exactly. Right. So going through that process is very important to understand what it is.
Yeah.
Right. And like I said, I think that not everybody is good at doing it. Right. Not everybody has the discipline to do it, myself included when I was younger.
Same here.
Right. So I kind of like also delayed my own even after I had inherited.
Yeah.
So again, don't feel shy about engaging a professional
Yeah.
to come and help you along the way, guide you along the way, challenge you along the way. I think it's time, it's investing ourselves actually, our own
Absolutely.
financial well-being. So I think that that's important to do so.
Yeah, I think that's great advice for us to end our conversation on. Wai Kit, it's been a pleasure. Thanks so much for this clarity, and I hope that this will be absolutely useful for those that are about to inherit their insurance policy from anyone, not just their parents, but from anyone who may have bought it for them many, many years ago. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Andrew. Thanks.
And thank you as well, our Money Talks community, for tuning in. Now I leave you with a question. Did you inherit an insurance policy from your parents recently? And what did you do with it? Because when I was younger and I had to inherit 3 different policies, I had no clue and I just let them run. So I ended up paying for 2 different sets of policies, one from my parents and one that I bought on my own. You do not want to end up in that situation, do you? More doesn't mean better, okay? That's my advice there. Tell us in the comment sections what you think from wherever you're listening to us from, or you can also email us directly, cnapodcasts@mediacorp.com.sg. This has been the Money Talks podcast. I'm Andrea Heng.